And kind of the sort of two categories that falls into then are going to be cognitivism and non-cognitivism. We're going to be diving into cognitivism to begin with. A space that we've spoken about a little bit before is error theory, which I found to be fascinating, but also, I don't know, at times it feels like it's intuitively wrong. So I kind of want to dive into this. So error theory, for those who want to know, states that moral claims are truth apt, but also that all moral claims are false. And as I mentioned, this feels intuitively wrong. So could you dive into what error theory is and why there's this feeling that that's just not okay?
Yeah, so you summarised it nicely. So the error theory says that when we make moral claims, we're describing or talking about some moral reality, whatever that is. I'm making a claim about the world. That's the first point. And the second point is there is no moral reality or moral world. So what does that mean? Well, that means that every time we're talking about moral stuff, then we're saying something about the world that is not there, which is therefore our moral claims are false. So if I say giving money to charity is right, I'm describing that act as having this rightness, but there is no rightness, so therefore that claim's false. And they say that's true for all positive moral claims that you can think of, whatever that is, whether that's peeling skin off babies being wrong, that's false. Whether it's giving money to charity, it being right, that's false. You name it. Any positive claim, moral claims about the world you're making, by positive I just mean you're actually asserting them about the world, they turn out to be false. As to your second part, why is that? That's a bit hard to understand. That's a question of psychology, really, in part, I think. I think primarily because we think in most of the things we hear about the Truth Act, we can at least understand when those things might be true or come in contact with them being true. However unlikely they are, we say, oh yeah, they're sometimes true. So we sort of equivocate between truth apt and true because in most instances we can sort of see they're interchangeable. Whereas what the error theorist does is put into contrast those 2 points. Just to give a final example to show that is if you think about someone who's, say Richard Dawkins, right, atheist, and he says, God says things in the Bible, a highly sophisticated statement there, then that looks like it's claiming something about God. But of course, he thinks there is no God. And imagine there's no God, then what he's saying is going to be false, right? So religious claims for atheists are going to be examples of error theory. They're making claims, religious people are making claims about the world, supernatural world, but there is no supernatural world because they're atheists. Therefore, all those claims are systematically and uniformly false.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I remember when we spoke before, getting ready for this show, you use the analogy of religion and how the religious claims, some people can be error theorists about religion and religious claims, which I think really helps kind of contrast kind of how this could fit into a worldview and makes it a little bit more palatable or at least a little bit more understandable.
Yeah.
In your book as well, you interestingly talk about the difference between error theory being useful rather than truthful, and almost like a sort of glue that can enable moral practice almost to be justified. Could you dive into that element of it as well for us?
Yeah, sure. So imagine we're error theorists, so we think that all our moral claims are systematically and uniformly false. So then the question is, well, what on earth do you do? What do you do, right? Now, one sort of radical nuclear option is just get rid of morality. But the error theorists say, well, that you don't need to do that. There are reasons that justify our moral practice. It's just that those reasons aren't based on truth, because there isn't any. So what reasons could there be? Well, there are pragmatic reasons about use. So, if you're thinking to yourself, maybe I'll go around and nick Andy's bike, because I'm sure you're a nice bloke, but imagine you did. Then you might think, well, there are really good reasons to. He's left his shed open, it's an expensive bike, etc. Let's go and take it. But then imagine that you've got this thought, well, it's the wrong thing to do. Now, it may be false, right? Well, it is false on the error theorist claim because there's no false. But that extra language might sort of stop you doing it. So that the sort of veneer, let's say, of moral talk might bolster people's motivation, so they keep themselves in check in a way that wouldn't be true if we didn't have morality at all. So even if morality is false under the error theory, it might sort of allow society to act and operate in ways which is going to be better for all, even if they're not tracking truth. So you've got pragmatic justification rather than justification based in sort of truth.
If you enjoyed this clip, then head on over to Locals to access the full conversation right now. Supporters can access the video version and everyone can access the audio-only version of the conversation. I'll see you over there.